Wine Spanish with Ivan, not to be confused with Spanish wine. So Ivan, let's go over some terms that you feel are important to the average American that doesn't speak much Spanish coming over here and trying to get a tasting and experience wine.
Okay. Well, I think one of the first terms, most people are going to come visit Valle to have a wine tasting. So one of the terms, the main term is to look for is degustación.
Degustación.
Yeah. So degustación is an actual wine tasting. It's an informal wine tasting where you come, you pick the wines, or they're pre-selected, and the owner, whoever's attending the winery, will tell you a little bit about each wine as you're drinking them.
Okay.
Now, it's not necessarily be confused with cata or catar.
Catar is a term I've heard often as well in South America when it comes to tasting wine.
So while it is the same as far as tasting goes, at least here in Mexico, catar refers more to the actual, like a professional person tasting it. So let's say I have this wine.
So a sommelier.
Yeah, like a sommelier. I'm going to do a formal cata where I am going to examine all the colors, I'm going to examine all the aromas, all the flavors.
You go through the steps of the tasting.
Exactly, right? In a very formal process, usually to write down what we're doing, or if, like in a wine contest, they're not tasting wines, they're not doing degustaciones, they're catando. They're tasting. They're tasting in a more formal manner.
Interesting.
So while most people will understand you if they say cata, the best term and the thing you'll find mostly here will be degustación.
Degustación. So we've talked about how to order a tasting, right? Degustación in Mexico, at least here in Valle de Guadalupe. Now, the next step in the process is there's white, red, and rosé.
Yes.
So how do we determine what we want to order? How do we order depending on what we like?
Okay. So yes, we have three main wines, which is the white, the rosé, and the red. If you want a white wine, that's blanco. And usually here in Mexico, the whites are very crisp. They have a little bit of acidity, but very crisp. It's definitely some summer wines. If you want a rosé, the term is rosado. Rosado is the correct term. And there's a big variety of rosados in the valley. You can have very sweet rosados, dry rosados, or kind of like ours that's in between.
I've had everything. Very meaty. I've had medium. I've had very crisp, very clean.
There's everything in rosados here. Now, where it gets tricky is with the red wines. Okay. So if you want red, your natural assumption would be, say, rojo, which means red.
If you know a basic level of Spanish, you're going to say vino rojo.
And exactly. And while the term is correct, and when you're talking about wine, the correct term is tinto.
Tinto.
So instead of saying red, you say tinto.
Tinto.
And that's what. That's how everybody here knows red wine as vino tinto.
So this would be a vino tinto.
Exactly. Okay. And all red wines, whether they're or vinos tintos, whether they're sweet or dry, they have the same term.
Where they have a medium color versus a dark color versus a light color.
All of them here, they're just known as tintos.
Okay.
And I think one more difference that we can do is yes, that's a white, a rosé, and a red. But what do you want? And some of the normal terms here, if you want a very fruity wine, regardless of what type of wine it is, it's afrutado. Afrutado, so it's a fruity wine or fruit forward.
So how if we were in a wine tasting setting and I came up to the bar and I said, hey, and you would ask me, what kind of wine do you like? So say that in Spanish for me.
Okay, so if I want to say,
what kind of wine do you want to order?
Let's say I want a fruity, a red with fruit forward. Okay. So I would say, quiero un vino tinto afrutado.
Quiero un vino tinto afrutado. So basically a fruit forward red wine.
Exactly. Now if you want to go a little bit deeper, there's astringency, there's acidity, and what's the biggest difference? Astringency will dry out your palate, acidity will make you salivate. So let's say you want like a heavy oak wine because it has a little more astringency. Then you say un vino tinto astringente o un vino tinto con barrica, madera.
Con barrica, madera.
Madera would be the oak. Exactly. And there's American and French oak, and that's Americano y Francés. So it just depends how specific you want to get to. There's here in the valley, the nice thing is because we're New World. We have everything. You know, there's blends all over the place. There's single varietals, whether it's American oak or French oak. If you look for it, you'll probably find it. And so that's a great thing.
But what's crazy to me is it's New World, considered New World when it comes to the wine world. However, it's the oldest wine region in all of North America.
Actually, Mexico has the oldest vines in the whole continent, not just from North America,
Just
but
the continent.
whole continent, even to South America, going back to 1525.
Wow.
So we're almost nearing 500 years.
Oh.
And while we may not be very well known, we have very old
very
history.
old wines.
Yeah,
Yes.
very old wines.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Josh, for coming.
Ivan, it's been a pleasure. Everybody, this is Josh with Take In Baja. Again, we're with Ivan. Vinos du Bacano, come check them out. Once again, I challenge you to take in and take on Baja.